Becky. I'm the executive director at HIFF. It's so good to see so many of you. And thank you all for being on this incredible workshop today that Jenmei has put together. I'm going to let her introduce Phil, our guest speaker, in a little bit. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this program for those of you who haven't done it before. This is a program that HIFF partners with the Daniel K. Inouye Institute to run, and it's really special to everybody at HIFF. We're so grateful for the support of the DKII to put this together for you guys. And every year, students across the state of Hawaii, and usually a group or two from Alaska, create these really incredible short films based on themes that Jenmei comes up with. And it's such a fun program, and we're always so impressed with the films that come out. And I just wanted to say, don't be bashful, don't be shy. If you've never made a film before, that's totally fine. You'd be surprised how incredible the films are. And it's just really fun seeing all the work that you guys are doing. And your perspectives are so incredible and different than anything that we're seeing from anywhere else, which is a lot considering we show 200 films every year at our festival. So we are doing it a little bit different this year. We're going to move our showcase and our special VIP guest meet and greet to the spring as part of our youth education festival, which Jenmei will talk more about. But for now, just know that it's a really great program, and we hope that you continue to come to our next session and then submit some work. So yeah, Jenmei, is there anything else you wanted me to say?
No, that was great, Becky. Well, we'll definitely go into the how to submit to HIFF and the Youth Festival for next spring too. So,
and for people that are here in Hawaii, our fall festival, our 43rd fall festival, is coming up October 12th through November 5th across all islands. So be sure to check that out. Jenmei can talk more about that.
Awesome.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks so much, Becky. Thank you. So we have our fall festival coming up pretty soon, but as part of that is our workshop today, and our workshop next week, Saturday, which is our part 2. And again, if you can't meet next Saturday, that we're going to be recording our live workshop, and we'll be sending that link to you as well. Before I bring on Philip, I want to introduce Justin Ocampo. Justin is working with the festival this semester, or this fall. And he is a graduate of the University of Hawaii School of Cinematic Arts, and he interned with HIFF last year. And we're just so proud of Justin and his journey as a filmmaker as well. And we're so glad that he's with us here today. And he's going to introduce our facilitator.
Thank you, Ate Jenmei. Hi, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing today's workshop facilitator, Philip Chung. Philip W. Chung is a writer-producer and creative director based in Los Angeles. He has written, developed, and produced projects for Netflix, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers, YouTube, Google, and others. Fun fact, because I love to include fun facts in my introductions of people we work with here at the festival, Philip is currently working on a play called My Man Kono that's about the life of Charlie Chaplin's Japanese-American valet, and will premiere off-Broadway in New York City in 2025. Let's please give a round of applause and turn our attention to Philip Chung.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jenmei and Becky and the DKII Institute for having me back. I know some of you have done this program before, so you're probably sick of seeing me every year, but you'll have to bear with me one more time. And to all the new students who are participating this year, welcome. Like Becky said, this should be a great experience, and we're going to kick things off today. But before we do, I want to just talk about a little bit about the program. I've been with it since we began several years ago, with Harry Shum Jr. was our first guest. And we've been doing it every year since, and we've been doing it remotely during the pandemic. And Jenmei, how many years is it now? I always forget. Is it 6?
We're entering our 6th year now.
Yeah, 6 years. So yeah, it's been a while, and some of you have been there for many of those years. And I'm always happy to be back, to be asked back. This is one of my favorite things to do every year. And as Becky and Jen-May said, this year it's a little different. We're going to have the actual screenings in April at a very specific event just designed for student filmmakers. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in person there. But to kick things off, we wanted everyone to introduce themselves. So if you can say your name, your school, your island, or if you're out of Hawaii, like where you are right now. And then I'd also like to know if this is your first time participating in the program or if you participated before. So how do you want to do the intros, Jen-May?
I think what we'll do is we'll just, I'll call on you and then you could share your name, school, island, and how many times you've participated in this program. I'm going to put it in the group chat in case you forget what to share. But I'll just go in order of the students I see on my screen. First up, we have Brayden Radira.
Okay, I am Brayden Radira. I am from Highlands Intermediate from the island of Oahu, and yeah.
Awesome. Brayden, is this your first time participating in the program?
Yeah, it is. Sorry,
Cool.
I forgot about that part.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here. We have Mr. Wes. Oh, Wes, sorry, you're on
muted.
mute.
I think you're muted.
Hi. I'm a teacher over at James Campbell High. My name is Mr. Atkins. Mr. West is my first time participating.
Woo! Thanks for being here, Mr. Wes. I see
I'm
Sage.
so sorry, what was?
Oh, no worries. Hi, Sage.
Hi. I don't know if my thing's working. Is it working?
Yes.
My name is Sage. I go to Sacred Hearts Academy. I'm on the island of Oahu. Sorry, I'm at the convention center for the private schools thing today, and this is my first year.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. We have Amia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amia. I am a recent graduate. I've been homeschooled, and I did the Feature Filmmakers contest last year.
Awesome. Thanks, Amia. You'll be hearing from Amia and some of the other student presenters soon. All right, we have Adrian.
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian. I go to Bradford High School and I'm on Oahu, and this is my first year doing this.
Awesome. We're so glad you're here, Adrian. And we have Hi'ile and Pono.
Aloha, my name is Pono.
Aloha, I'm Elaine.
We go to Hala Kumana, and then this is our first year.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Hi, we have Sue from the Teen Center at the Pearl Harbor base. Is that right, Sue?
Yeah. So I'm a facilitator. I'm a youth assistant there. And I've had a couple teens who are kind of interested in, filmmaking in general, and I have a little bit experience in it. So I thought I like to learn about what's going on, so maybe we can participate in this.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, Sue. We have Michi.
Hi, my name is Michi, and I go to MidPac, which is on Oahu, and then this is my first time.
Awesome. So glad you're here. And then we have Mr. Tamai from Highlands Intermediate.
Good morning. My name is Jake Tamai. I am the teacher at Highlands Intermediate School, which is on the island of Oahu in the city of Pearl City. And we had so much fun doing this last year. So this is our second time doing this. Aloha.
Yeah. Awesome. We're glad you're here, Jake. Then we have Temple.
Hi, I'm Temple. I'm from Hilo Intermediate School on the Big Island, and this is my first time.
Nice. Thanks for being here. Hi, Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Forges from Highlands Intermediate School on the island of Oahu, and then this is my first time doing this.
Thanks for joining us, Emma. Hi, Yana.
Hi, my name is Yana. I'm a recent graduate of Iowani School, and I participated in HIFF last year.
Awesome. And she'll also be presenting today, as well as Faith. Hi, Faith.
Hi, my name is Faith Sullivan. I graduated from Maui High School, but I currently attend Maui College. And I submitted to the Future Filmmaker Showcase back in 2021. And this is my second year of being in the student committee.
Thanks, Faith. Also on our student committee is Grayson. Hi, Grayson.
Aloha guys, my name is Grayson Castron. I graduated from Roosevelt High School last year, but I'm planning to attend WCC next February. This is my first time attending this type of workshop with HIFF, but I was in the student showcase last year, and now I'm on the student committee, so I have the opportunity to learn from you all today, and I just want to mahalo.
Thanks, Grayson. Hi, Kainoa. How's it going? Kainoa, I think you're muted. You want to say hello to the group?
Hello, my name is Kainoa, and I live in Juneau, Alaska. Now I'm a part of the Raven homeschool here. And I did HIFF. I participated in HIFF last year. Now I'm doing it again.
Awesome. Thanks, Kainoa. And Cortezi, good to see you again.
Hi, my name's Cortezi. I'm homeschooled. I currently live on the island of Oahu, and this is my first time doing this.
Awesome. Thanks, Cortezi. Hi, DeMarcus.
My name is DeMarcus. I'm a senior at Campbell High School, and it's on Oahu, and this is my first time.
We're glad you're here. Thank you. Hi, Mia.
Oh, hi. I'm Mia Shimoda, and I go to Highlands Intermediate on Oahu, and this is my first time participating.
Great. Thanks, Mia. And then we also have Ariani.
Hi, I'm Ariani Tayag. I go to Avamakai Middle School on the island of Oahu, and this is my first year participating.
Awesome. Thanks, Ariani. And we have Luca, who's been in our program since the start of this program 6 years ago. Luca, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Yes, this is actually my 5th year participating because I didn't get to participate in freshman year, but I'm very excited. I'm from James Campbell High School. I'm a senior. Yeah.
Awesome. And you'll be hearing from Luca too. He'll be presenting in a little bit. Hi, Madison, also from Campbell.
Hi, I'm Maddie, and I'm from James Campbell, and this is my first year here.
Awesome. We're glad you're here. I'm going to go into the bottom row. If you have your camera off, it would be great to turn your camera on when you're saying hello to the group. I see Jenny Lynn.
Hi, my name is Jenny Lynn. I was from Avamakai Middle School on the island of Oahu, and I've been here. This is my 2nd year coming to here.
Awesome. Glad you're back. And I see Kanoa. Kanoa, would you like to say hello to the group? Okay, come back to Kanoa Crackle from Assets High School. I see, oh, there you are. Hi, Kanoa. I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, was
No
having a
worries.
little trouble, but yeah. Hi, I'm Kanoa. I'm currently a senior at Assets High School on Oahu, and yeah, this is my first time doing this, and I'm happy to be here.
So glad you're here. Thank you so much. And then
you.
I have, you're welcome. I see Boston.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Boston. I go to Highlands Intermediate, and I live on the island of Oahu, and it's my first year.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And then I see another teacher, Mr. Manglaglen. Did I say your last name right?
Oh, hi, I'm John Manglalan. I teach at Copley High School. It's my first time participating.
Very cool. Thanks for being here. And I think we had everyone introduce themselves. We might have a couple of people, so I got an email that they might be coming in later, so we'll have them introduce themselves later. But we like to do that to get everyone to introduce yourselves because this is sort of like a cohort of sort. All of you are learning together and growing together as storytellers and as filmmakers. And so it's a good way. We're going to have other opportunities throughout this workshop for you to meet each other and talk to each other about your ideas. And so what we're going to do right now, Phil, if that's okay, we are going to bring on the 4 student filmmakers who are going to be presenting. And we thought this would be a good way to kind of kick off our brainstorm session by getting some inspiration from students who have done this before and were in your shoes and can offer some really good, solid advice to your filmmaking, to making your short film. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up their presentation, and then we'll bring them up as well. All right, so share screen, present. Everyone can see this? Thumbs up? Okay, let's bring up and welcome Luca. I'm just gonna spotlight for everyone. I wonder how can we spotlight at the same time we're sharing your presentation? Let's try. We're gonna bring up Luca, Yana, Faith, and Amia. So I'm gonna go ahead and let the 4 of you kick it off.
Okay. Good. Okay. Hey everybody. So we are your HIFF ambassadors, I would say. So this is Hawaii Youth Leading by Example. This is this year's theme or prompt. So let's introduce ourselves. We'll go to the next page. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, as I introduced myself before, my name is Faith Sullivan. I was a contestant for the Future Filmmakers back in 2021.
Hi guys, I'm Amia. I was a contestant back in 2022.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yana, and I was a contestant also back in 2022.
Hi, everybody. My name is Luca. I first started in 2018.
So during my year, the prompt was the greatest generation and the COVID generation, hope and resiliency in unprecedented times. And so the way that I took this prompt was I looked at the perspective of what our current young generation was going through at the time. And so kind of looking at the aspect of how friendships and loneliness might have affected our ability to interact with other people and such, and how we might have wanted to consider the past, right, in order to fix our friendships and whatnot. And so within my film, it's about 2 friendships that follow a scavenger hunt left by an old friend of theirs. And as I go through this journey, they kind of learn reasons why this friend might have left. And so when we look at hope and resiliency in unprecedented times, it's also kind of a reflection and also a journey of how we can reflect on our past to know how we can do better for our future and our future friendships and such. So that was my film. Next slide.
So my film, our 2022 prompt was honoring the past to build the future. And when I was coming up with the idea for this film, I actually had a bit of a hard time because, especially living in Hawaii where the culture is so rich, I felt very disconnected from my culture. I'm from Pennsylvania and African American, and I really felt like I wanted to reconnect with that, but was really struggling to do so. And so I had a hard time with this prompt, actually, of really figuring out what that meant to me. And as I was thinking about it, I decided to take what I was feeling and express that through film. So I ended up making The Reconnection, which is about a teenage girl who expresses her desire to reconnect with the way God originally created the world to be. And I was super inspired by living off the land and living in nature. So that's reflected a lot in my film. It's funny, I actually had a long time to make this. I had April, but I didn't actually start until 2 weeks, so 2 weeks before the deadline. So it was definitely a bit of a crunch. I'm sorry, kids in the background. But yeah, this was a super fun film to make, and it was really ended up being something super personal to me. And so yeah, that's my a little bit about my film. We can go to the next slide.
Yes, my prompt was similar to Amia's, and when I first read the prompt, I pretty much immediately knew that my film would most likely center around the idea of family, because by that point in time, around September, when I was preparing for HIF, it was more than 6 months since the start of the war in Ukraine, which is where I'm from. So obviously, I had very strong feelings towards like the uncertainty of the future of Ukraine and of my own future as well. Because, for example, like a lot of the places I used to go to as a kid with my family no longer existed by that time. So I decided that I would make a film from this perspective of honoring the past to build the future, which means that my film would be about honoring and appreciating the family bonds that I had back home, because in the present moment at that time, they were no longer available to me. So ultimately, my future was changed. And yeah, it was a really cool process to be able to make that film. And it was my first time when I had no crew with me. I just put a tripod and stood in front of the tripod, and yeah, I really appreciated that experience. And since we'll be talking about later about pre-production, production, and post-production processes, I will then share a little bit more about how to make a film that resonates with the audience in terms of the personal experience, which was my focus point. Next slide.
Everyone, so my film that I made, actually this was in 8th grade. Yes, 8th grade, I believe. I kind of forgot what the specific prompt was, but it was during the 60th anniversary of statehood. And we were asked to create a film on where we see the state going in the next 40 years. So the PSA that we made was basically showcasing how the shape of Hawaii's future is in the hands of us, is in the hands of the youth, the new generations. And through making this film, it was very, I don't know how to explain it, but it was very meaningful to us because at the time we were still young, like we were still in middle school. I mean, we are still young right now, but we were in middle school and we're trying to think of ways that we could use this prompt, but connect it back to us, to our generation. And that's how we came up with our little PSA over here.
Okay. So we can start on pre-production. We can go into the next slide. So the first thing that I actually wanted to say is obviously each filmmaker has different type of filmmaking that they would like to produce, and what I'm about to say can apply to different types. So it can be a documentary genre, it can be experimental film. And it is something that I applied in my style, which was the narrative filmmaking. And I would say that before you think about your story and how to make your characters compelling or different from millions of other stories that have already been told by so many people, try answering the following 3 questions for yourself. Why are you telling this story? Why exactly this story? Like, why this particular story, not some other story? And why do you need to tell it now? I feel like these 3 questions tremendously help me, and they seem so simple, but you will be surprised because if you actually take the time to write down the answers to these 3 questions, why you, why this particular story, and why now, there is a very high probability that your plot and your characters will be original and believable. Because in your answers to these 3 questions, you're doing two things. You're making your story personal to you, and you make it specific. So I would say that for the story of my film, personalization and specificity were two things that tremendously changed how I thought about the film that I was making. And then, of course, once you have your script down to prepare for the production process, it's really important to think about the visualization of your film. So preparing storyboard and making notes for how you would like each shot to look like helps a lot, because this is what helps you think about the details and create those minor details in the final product. Something that I did is I just went on Google, I typed in a storyboard template, I downloaded it, I printed it out, I just drew out each shot how I envisioned it, and then I made little notes on a separate sheet of paper of what kinds of things I wanted to put in each shot, like if I wanted if I wanted a lamp to be there, or if I wanted like a book to be there, for example. So these kinds of things. And the last point that I wanted to talk about is conflict. And for some of you, this may be a familiar term. For some, may not really be sure what it means. But basically, to engage the viewer in your story, especially if you're a beginning filmmaker and you are just thinking about your idea, it helps a lot if the character that you have in your film has some kind of problem. And basically, what a conflict or a problem is, it's a struggle between two different forces. So if you know what your character wants and needs in a story, and if you figure out how the wants of your character clash with the wants of the other character, and that's just an example of, there are maybe many options, but if you figure out that problem in your film, it will be so much easier for you to create a believable plot. Because since my junior year of high school, like I've been really dreaming and actually trying to write a feature-length screenplay. And what I learned from reading the works of other screenwriters, and this is something that I wish I have learned in my first year of filmmaking, because it would help me save so much time and so much struggle. But what I learned is a meaningful conflict is a conflict that's not just there for the sake of having a conflict or for the sake of having a problem in your script, but a truly meaningful conflict is the one that actually has something to say to the audience. And a thing that absolutely blew my mind is to learn that your characters in a story are not in conflict because they say want to get the job right, or because they want to save the world, but because their beliefs conflict. So what your film really is about the belief. And this is just something for you to think about. So what I did when I was in the pre-production stage, I really tried to think about, why is my character saying what she's saying? What is going to happen if she doesn't say what she say? And just consistently trying to push myself to answering why deeper. And yeah, I think that's the most helpful thing in pre-production for me. Next slide.
Alrighty, so thank you, Yana. That was perfect advice for pre-production. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about production. We can go into the next slide. So for me, a lot of times I'm working with limited resources, and I know a lot of you guys might be working with limited resources. And if you're anything like me, you will go online, research, and there's so many people who say you have to have this camera to make a film, you have to have this amount of money. You really don't. You can do so much with what you have. And I really wanted to talk about getting creative with that. And what I mean by that is, it may be, if you have just yourself, it can be easy to say, okay, I can't make a film because I don't have any crew or I don't have any actors. There's so much you can do. For me, I acted in my film. I think Yana did too for her film. She did it herself. But yeah, it really is going that extra mile. And instead of just saying, oh, well, I can't do it, really slowing down and saying, hey, is there a way where I can post my camera up where I'm filming just myself? Or, oh, I'm working with actors, but this amount of actors instead of maybe what I was envisioning. Really get creative. And going back to what Yana said, it's really important to know your story, because when you are working with limited resources and you do have to change things around, knowing your story is crucial, because those changes you make will be able to connect with those if you have that story, and you can make changes that actually might enhance the story more. And that goes back into my next point. It's really let your shots be motivated by your story. And what I mean by that is, don't just shoot something just because it would be a cool shot. I mean, of course, if you want to, go for it, but really paying attention is, hey, if I get this shot, will it portray what I'm trying to say in this story? And there are so many different camera angles you can do. So one of the things is, usually a close-up is great for portraying different emotions, and then a wide shot if you're trying to reveal something. And I could go on and on about that, but really just focusing on that and know your story. I can't emphasize that enough, because it's easy to get lost in the production phase when you're just shooting. And also really wanting to emphasize, really trust your spirit. If there's that shot you feel like would really enhance the story and enhance your film, go the extra mile and get that shot. It's worth it, believe me. And really don't let limited resources stop you from getting that, because there's always a way. And yeah, I think next thing is, small tweaks make really big peaks. And what I mean by that is, it's really paying attention to the little details of, is my audio good? Is the camera in focus? Little things that may not seem like a big deal will make a big difference if you just take that extra second, pay attention, and see, hey, there's something in the background of the frame. I don't really want that there. Let me go move it. Or, hey, this angle actually doesn't make that much sense. Let me change angles. That will make a big difference when you go to edit, give you so much more flexibility. And yeah, it's really, really important. I know I keep saying it, but really know your story. I've had a lot of films where I go in, I start shooting, and I kind of just forget my storyline, and I'm lost as I'm filming. And it makes a big difference. Okay, yeah, we can go to the next slide.
All right, we'll be diving into post-production, and in this, more specifically, how to edit your video, or one of the many ways you can. So one of the most important things in post-production, especially if this is your first time, is being very organized with your material. And so when you get into that creative flow, you're not figuring out where your files are located, how you name certain files, how to export and whatnot. And I will also say up front that you can use the editing softwares that you feel like is best for yourself. That includes Final Cut Pro, Adobe, and other small softwares that you might have. I know that some can be a bit expensive, but if you would like to use industry standard like Adobe, student discounts are available, so definitely look for that if you want a budget on your editing software. But within the process, you also want something that's very streamlined. And so you're not frantically trying to edit and organize at the same time. And so when you organize everything, make sure you make selects, or that's something I recommend. And selects is when you go through all of your footage and you make a collection of the footage that is usable. So for example, sometimes when you film, you might say like action, or you might count, or you might have a couple seconds after your clip that you don't need. So going through all of your footage and just cutting what's usable between that is so important, so that when you edit, you don't have to take that extra step to cut certain things out, and you'll know your footage very, very well, instead of just going to straight edit right away and you're looking at your footage at the same time. So once you review everything, you can kind of get a hold on what your story can be. Another reminder is throughout your rough drafts, it's okay if the storyline can change in the editing room. The editing and the writing are probably the two most pivotal parts of when you kind of figure out what your story is going to be about. So having rough drafts is super important to kind of develop that. And also remember that your first rough draft, it doesn't have to be perfect. At the very best, make it as simple as possible with the audio and the clips that you need to just tell your foundation of your story. You don't have to make your color and your sound automatically. You don't have to make the perfect cuts right away, but the simpler that you start it and the better of an idea you have of your story, the easier it is to change it along the way. So as you develop those rough drafts, you want to have others give feedback if possible. And I know the feedback process can be a little bit nervous, or you might feel a little protective of your work. But as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, it's so important to kind of let that go sometimes and to be vulnerable and showing your work to other people, because in the end, that's going to happen anyways. So while you're in the process, you're going to want to make sure you get the opinions and feedback and just do what's right for you. You don't have to get everyone's opinion in your piece, but it's a good idea to kind of see where your audience is at with how they view your story. And it's super important when you kind of maybe have a certain direction for your story, but the audience sees another way. So be very open to that as well. And when you get to your final drafts, that's when you should lock in your picture, which means you should be like a little bit resistant to changing things around, especially when you're close to the deadline and you have 2 weeks left to edit. And then you can focus on your sound, your coloring, how you're going to do your credits, and especially reaching out to your cast or your crew and asking them how to spell their names properly and correctly, and make sure you're attributing the right title for them as actors or editors. And so that's just a really small detail, but I never got to that until like days within submission. So I'd highly recommend to get all that small things in order. And so overall, your editing process should look like a funnel down to what your final should look like in the final details. And then you can go to the next slide.
Everyone, so I will just be giving you a few reminders on submitting to HIFF. So films are due January 31st, so we got time. Finalists will be notified in February, and the selects will be presented at the HIFF Appeal Festival in April. The story is displaying young people in Hawaii leading by example. The short film must be no longer than, at least 1 minute long and no longer than 4 minutes. Students may use anything that they have, so a smartphone, tablet, or even a more high-end camera to make their film. And of course, animated films are welcome. Yes, next slide. Yeah. And then I'm just gonna give you a few reminders to kind of end in our presentation. Just a reminder that this is HIFF, everyone. So make your film your film. Be imaginative. Express your creative mind, utilize your innovation, and express yourself to the fullest with your film. Think out of the box. Open your eyes to the environment that surrounds you. Create a film that you feel passionate for and that represents you or something that is important to you. Stylize cinematography. Harness your inner artist. Style your cinematography to capture what you believe will kind of help to elevate your story to the next level, whether it be using a variety of different shots, expressive lighting, colors, music. And also going back to what Amia says, you can showcase all of this creativity and beautiful storytelling using what you have, whether it be just your iPhone or a actual high-end camera. Use what you have. And yeah, pioneer and innovate to create meaning within your story. Experiment with different genres. I love doing all different types of films. So be open to unique ways of telling your story. Create a documentary, write a narrative, chalk a PSA maybe. You can design your film to be funny and lighthearted, or even take it more serious, more in-depth, kind of deep route, or even combine all these different genres and ways of storytelling to create something beautiful that you'll be proud to showcase at HIFF. And lastly, of course, engage the audience, capture the audience's attention with, most importantly, always most important will be your memorable and meaningful story. Your impactful story will always be number one when creating films, accompanied, of course, with the detailed and inspiring cinematography. Yes.
All right, so at this point, we will open it up if you guys have any questions for us.
Yeah, I think the first person texted in the group chat, and it was Grayson Costron, said he had a question. So yeah, Grayson, if you want, you can speak. Just turn on your microphone.
Hey, Anna, sorry, can you guys hear me? All right, yeah. So I was just wondering if you could repeat the three points that you had at first, because I think I got one of them, but I didn't write all three down.
Yeah, sure.
Thank
So
you.
the 3 points that I had is why are you telling this particular story and not some other story? Why are you telling it now? So what is the importance of telling it like right now? Why is it time sensitive? And then the third point is why are you the person telling this story? Say why, like, not like your neighbor can tell this story or not your classmate, but particularly you.
Perfect, mahalo.
Anyone else have any questions for any of our student presenters? This is a good time to ask. No other questions?
Cortezi looks like they have a question.
Oh, Cortezi, go ahead.
Hi, yes. So when you said something about youth leading the Hawaii, like youth leading the Hawaii example, what exactly did you mean by that? Do you mean like good examples that represent what you really want to talk about, or?
Cortezi, do you have that? Is that question for anyone to answer? I mean, did you want to go ahead and take that question?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
Unless Cortezi, did you have someone in mind you were asking?
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Okay. I think that is really for you to answer. It's what does that mean to you? And really, when you're making your film, when you read that, what does that mean to you? What does that resonate in you? And I think that's how you're going to create a story and a film that's original to you and to what you believe this means. So yeah, I think it's what it means to you.
Thank you.
Great. We have time for one more question. Does anyone else have a question for any of our student presenters on what they shared with us today? All right. It sounds like we are all in thinking about the ideas we have. I think, do we see anything in the chat? Okay, perfect. So Justin had shared in the chat some questions that we could dive into when we go into our breakout sessions, which will be in just a little bit. But before we do that, can we please give a round of applause to our amazing student presenters who were just like, oh my goodness, I was just so inspired by what they were sharing. They know what they're doing, and I love hearing from them everything that they shared. And so just one more note that they have here in their slide is that we have a workshop with Alex Bocari next week. And again, if you could attend that, we would love you there. I think most of you who are in this workshop today are planning to come to next week. And we will be recording that. Like, let's say if you're on the neighbor island or in Alaska, we'll make sure we get that link to you. But if you have any questions at all, especially the requirements for this festival, for the contest, I mean, feel free to email me. All of you have my email address and so forth. But again, let's give a round of applause to our student presenters. Yay.
Good
Go ahead
job.
and Yes, amazing, amazing job. Okay, so right now, Phil, we're gonna turn it back to you.
Yeah. So we'll break out into the breakout rooms in a second. I think we have a couple of students who volunteered to share their ideas, so we can get it going as an example, right, Jen May?
Yes, yes. So
okay.
you want to dive into Emma's first?
Yeah, we can start with Emma. Let me really quickly,
Okay.
I don't want to spend too much time, but I want to give everyone a couple of quick, just general pointers as you start kind of generating your ideas, because now we're back at the beginning at that point, after that great presentation, taking you through the whole process. So a couple of things about brainstorming, just really quickly. One is there's no such thing as a bad idea, right? Every idea that you come up with leads to a better idea, even if it's not the right one. So please don't be afraid to share your ideas with yourself or with others that you're working with, because again, that brainstorming process, you need that for that to get going. And along those lines, when you brainstorm, it really helps to talk to other people, to talk about your ideas, and that back and forth is where you're really going to grow. So don't be afraid to do that. And in fact, I would seek that out even if you're working on your own, is to get that feedback from other people. And then the final thing is, don't be limited by the theme or the prompt, right? It's very specific this time about youth, right? But let's say you want to do something about your grandma and tell her story, but she's obviously not quote unquote youth, but maybe there's something when she was your age that inspired her, that inspires you. Maybe it's something that she does now with youth that inspires you. So always try to find a way, if there's something that you really want to kind of explore and that you're passionate about, there's a way to, kind of not let the theme itself limit you from not doing that. And then a couple of quick things on when you give feedback to other people. The most important thing is that it's just as important to give positive feedback as it is things that may not work for you or more criticisms, right? So whenever I'm working with writers or filmmakers, I always, when we start talking about notes, always start with the positive feedback. Like, just what is it that works for you? What is it that you like about the project? Because we need, everyone, all artists need to hear that too, to kind of know what kind of we're doing right? And then the other thing that I'll say about that is, when you do give criticism or when you do give feedback that is more critical, declarative statements are not really as helpful. So it doesn't really help to say, I don't like that character, or I don't like this, or this doesn't work for me, because all of that is just opinions. Like, we all have our opinions, but that doesn't help someone who's trying to create something. So try to be specific about examples of things that you weren't sure about, that maybe don't work. And one way you can do that is by asking questions, right? Instead of just kind of declaring something. Not all notes have to be questions, so I don't want this to be all questions either. But that's just one example where instead of saying like, hey, I don't like the relationship between the two main characters, which doesn't help the filmmaker at all, you can say, well, why are they together? What do they have in common? Like, things like that, that again, help the filmmaker kind of understand where your criticism might be coming from and how to actually use that to help them improve, because then that'll make them think, oh, I haven't thought about why why this couple is together, what they like about each other. And then that helps them with something very specific. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. And then Jen May, I will turn it over to you now with kind of our examples. We'll try to do them as quickly as we can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Phil. Do we have Emma in the room today? Is Emma here?
Yeah.
Emma, okay. Hi, Emma. Emma, we really love the idea that you had, that your teacher had emailed us, and we would love for you to share. And again, as we're all gonna have an opportunity to share the idea that you have for your film. It could be the very start of your idea, or maybe you had some time to really think it out. But there is no right or wrong idea today. I want this space to be a place where you feel comfortable to just brainstorm and really get feedback from everyone here. So Emma, would you please share with everyone the idea that you had thought of for your film?
Okay, so my idea for the short film was to really highlight the importance of the student council at my school.
Awesome. Are you on the student council as well, Emma?
Yes.
Oh, okay, nice.
Oh, Denmei, can we see Emma on screen? I'm on my.
Oh yes. Sorry.
Me.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Emma, hi there. Hi. Okay.
Okay, so let's use Emma as just an example of like kind of one way we could start brainstorming. So Emma, you want to do something about your student council at school. Do you know specifically what you want to do, or is that something that you're still thinking about?
Yeah, so it's kind of like student voice, like how the student council at our school is like kind of run by the students.
Mm-hmm. And so you want to show then how the students who are in the student council do more for the school than people might think, right? It's a version of, kind of what they really do and kind of what the job is beyond just, people just think you get elected and you're just there, right? Yeah. So with that in mind, do you know how you want to approach the topic? Like, do you have a specific story that you want to tell about the student council, or is that something that you haven't thought about yet?
I haven't thought about that yet.
Okay. So here's one way to kind of narrow it down. Like, why as one of the students said in the presentation, like, why is this the story you want to tell? What is it about conveying that message or that sense of the student council important to you? What is it about it for personally that, that inspires you to kind of pick this topic? And if you haven't thought about it yet, that's fine too. Is that something you're not sure about? But you said you're on the student council, right?
Yeah.
So that's always a good place. If you're not sure where to start, that's always a good place to start, is like your personal connection with the story, right? So for you being on the student council, what is the most important thing for you? Why did you want to be a part of that? And how has it been different than what you thought it was going to be when you decided you wanted to be a part of that?
I wanted to be a part of it because like I really like helping them do it, and like I did it in elementary school and I liked it, so like I wanted to keep doing it.
So it's the helping aspect of it. Then it sounds like that's the most important thing for you of why you want to be involved, right? Okay. Now, do you know if you want to do like a narrative film or a documentary? Do you know kind of what your kind of leanings are in terms of the type of movie you want to make? Do you want to script something, or do you want to just shoot something that's more real life?
I don't know.
So you're open to both then? Okay. Then I think if you're open to both, I think, again, it's going back to kind of what your personal perspective on it, right? And asking all these questions that we've talked about and the presentation also brought up, right? Is if helping is the main thing, then what is the best way to tell that story? Do you want to tell the story of like a day in the life where where you go through student council, right? Or do you want to do a documentary on one of your other students that you're particularly inspired by or you think is doing a great job? Or do you want to do like a scripted story about like kind of one student council meeting or one event that they're doing? So it really is, you could do whatever you want, right? But use kind of your personal kind of connection to that topic, to why student council is important to you, to tell that story. So we don't want to spend too much more time, Jenmei, right? Because obviously we want to get to it, but those are the type of questions for everybody when you go into your breakout session that you want to kind of ask of your own project and of the other projects, and a lot of it is just asking questions until you can kind of narrow down what that idea that inspires you is, right? So Jenmei, let's thank you so much, Emma. I know it's not easy to share. Be the first person to share your idea, but I think it helps for people to get a sense of what that is going into it. Did you want to do another one or go straight into the breakouts, Jenmei?
I wanted to see if DeMarcus would be open to sharing his idea. DeMarcus was dominated by Luca. DeMarcus, are you still here? There you are. would you
Yeah,
be
I'll
open to
further.
sharing your idea as well?
So basically I was thinking about making a documentary about one of the students in the dance team at our school. And like I wanted to go for a emotional and deep type of approach.
And that's just the idea you have now, but you haven't really thought about what it's going to be yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it about? It's a very specific person you already have in mind, right? What is it about that person that either kind of inspires you, that you want to kind of do a documentary about them, and also how you think it ties into the theme of this year's filmmaking program?
So basically, she's one of the leaders of the dance team. So I thought it would be a good idea to interview her because it shows leadership.
Mhm.
And then as far as inspiration, I just thought it would be a fun topic to go over.
Yeah. Then I think it's also kind of thinking about what is it about her and what she's doing that inspires you personally, right? Because you also don't want to just do a doc where you're just interviewing her about everything and then there's no focus, right, of what your film is going to be about, right? So I would say think of like maybe one or two things about her life or why you want to kind of tell her story that inspires you, and then use that as kind of the seed of like, you know, this is what the doc is going to be, right? And it maybe you're focusing again on one part of her life, maybe you're following her through like one event or one day, you know, whatever that is, you know, you want to kind of focus it beyond just like this is her life and this is what she does, you know, because the more specific you get, generally for everyone, the more specific your story is, you know, the more effective it usually is, right? Because we can kind of really identify with someone going through something specific that we all kind of understand or we know or we've experienced. But do you have any questions about your idea before we go into the breakout rooms that you want to throw out to me or to anyone here, or something that you need help with?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you though.
All right. I mean, that's a great place to start, though. I think you have a great jumping off point. So with that said, why don't we do the breakout rooms, May?
Awesome. Thanks so much, DeMarcus, for speaking with us.
Thank you.
So this is how it's going to work. We have pre-assigned breakout rooms for everyone. Basically, you'll be with the group that you came with this morning. And if you're here not with a group, I'm going to put in like a sort of like a mix room. And that way you'll be able to sort of reflect on some of the questions. I believe Justin dropped some reflection questions that we can kind of think about today. But mainly we're going to be giving everyone maybe like 5 minutes just to kind of reflect on the theme and everything that was shared today. And then after the breakout session, we're going to ask each breakout room to volunteer an idea that they would like to kind of, you know, work through with Phil and develop the idea a little bit more. What are some of the things that you have written down? Lena, are you raising your hand to share?
Yes.
Okay, feel free.
So my idea was to cover the interns at the summer internship that I did called Seeds for Tomorrow. I'm actually wearing the shirt. There you go. So it's all about agricultural purposes and learning how to take care of a garden and promote sustainability. So this past summer, we had a lot of interns, about 6 in Waipahu, helping out with learning how to do different things in agriculture, such as lab work, got more of the business side, planting, working with like GMOs, as well as just planting and harvesting native plants as well. So I thought that would be a great topic to cover about how us youth are helping to create a sustainable future for ourselves in terms of food, and how how that affects our lives. We all went to different schools, the interns, and we all are doing different things. They're part of like Future Farmers of America. So I thought that I could cover how in doing the internship, it it shows a great example of how us youth can help with the whole like food insecurity and the fact that we have to like import a lot of our foods. So all about that kind of agriculture aspect of leading.
That's great. I'm just jumping in, Jenmei. Thank you for sharing that, Lena. So I also want other people to kind of give feedback as well. I don't want it to just be me. So let's start with that. Does anyone want to kind of tell Lena what is it about the idea that she shared, where there's a lot of obviously information there that she's thought about? What is it about that that kind of excites you, or that inspires you, or that you would really love to know more about? Like, does anyone have anything from that you want to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little low though.
Go ahead, Wes.
There we go.
Oh, okay, good. So it took me all morning to get a mic connected. I like as someone from mainland, I've never really thought too much about food insecurity. I've always taken for granted the food in my fridge. So that's what's exciting for me, is just the concept of food insecurity in general. I wanted to hear a little bit more specifics about what we're covering. I think I want to hear just more research. I think I know it's a short little pitch time you have right now, though. But I like the visuals that come into my head already when you start to talk about this, and the environment that you're going to be able to shape.
I mean, Mr. West raises a good point, Lena. Have you thought about, like, in terms of the research and all that? Obviously, this is a program that you went through yourself. I'm sure there's a lot there that you're already aware of, and all of that. Are you thinking of doing this as a documentary or as a narrative?
Sorry, it's kind of loud in my house right now. I was thinking more documentary kind of style. Like, I really take inspiration from like nature documentaries kind of vibes. Showing like I don't know. This is kind of like a sequence I had in mind, like showing the time lapse of a plant growing, and showing like along the lines how we've all grown as people through the program, kind of like that. Mainly documentary though.
Okay. So is it something that, again, Mr. West raises a good point where he basically talked about like how the food insecurity part of it was really interesting to him because it was something that he wasn't aware of, right? So kind of with that in mind, obviously you talked about that, you talked about the GMOs, you talked about just sustainable farming. There's a lot in there, to cover within 4 minutes, right? So part of it now is finding the focus. So it sounds like what you're thinking of doing is maybe kind of finding a focus through, did you want to talk to the other interns that you went through this program with? Is it something that through their experiences, you're touching on these issues as opposed to it being something about just the issues themselves?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to the other interns about how they view these issues and yeah, basically how they how through their different programs and like leadership positions and through the internship as well, like how they tackle or address or their views on the problems based on like food insecurity in Hawaii.
And I think that's just in general for everybody, that's a very smart way to approach a topic like this where there's just so much information, right? There's so many different ways to tell the story, and it's very hard to do in a very short amount of time, right? So if you're just kind of telling it through the issues, then it might feel too much like a lecture, or you're just trying to cram a lot of information into a short period of time, or it's just something we could read in a newspaper or a textbook or whatever, right? But I think you're very smart in like telling the story through the experiences of you and the other interns, right? Because then that also gives us a very personal kind of way into the story. You're not just telling us like stats about food insecurity. We're actually kind of hearing or someone talking about why it's important to them, or following them as they're doing something to address the issue or whatever that is. So I think for everyone, especially for the documentaries, like you want a documentary to feel different than just a news story that you see online, right? A news story is just information. It's just we're interviewing people, they're telling us what happened. A lot of it is just facts, but it's not necessarily meant to evoke an emotional response from people, whereas a documentary should do that as well. You shouldn't just be telling us facts, but you should try to think about how you're going to make the audience care about the thing that you want us to care about, right? So in that sense, again, telling it from a very personal point of view, telling it from the point of view of people who are affected by the issues is a very good way to do that. So, so thank you, Lena. Does anyone else have any like questions for Lena before we move on about her project, her idea?
Can I say something, Phil?
Yeah.
Hi, Lena. I think your idea is amazing. It's such a cool program that you did. And I agree with everything that Phil and Wes said. I think, what also might be interesting, because it sounds like you guys learn techniques for how you can integrate this in your life and like practice better habits. And so like, showing the audience, what techniques the interns and you are still doing and practicing as like a takeaway, right? Like what's the takeaway for people who haven't had the opportunity to go through this internship to improve their life and contribute to this cause, right? So I think with films where you're working like for a cause, or you're, propagating a change of behavior, looking at takeaways like within the film that audience members can integrate into their life.
Yes,
That's good
I
advice.
agree.
Good advice.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Lena, for sharing your idea. Jen-May, do you want to try to do one more? And then I know you have some questions as well.
Yes. So I do want to. I just want to say real quickly. I know I want to honor everyone's time, and it did take. Sorry again. It took me a bit of time to figure out the whole breakout session. So if it's okay with everyone, we could go over by 5 or 10 minutes to allow for more conversation. But if you need to leave early at 12:30, that's okay too. I did get a message, Phil, from Layla. I think Layla wants to go next, and then I know we see like a couple of other people who want to share. But Layla, would you like to share your idea? Layla, are you we could come back to you unless you'd like to share your idea right now. I think Layla's figuring out her audio. Okay, let's go to Cortezi and then we'll come back to Layla. Cortezi, go ahead.
Hi, yes. So, my idea for my story, I'm still weighing between two ideas. One of them is a narrative and the other is a documentary. It's basically sort of like almost like raising awareness for deafness. Like how it would feel to be a young kid, half deaf, half hearing, always pushed out of conversations or made fun of, sometimes because she can't hear what the teacher's saying. And finally meeting someone that's equal to her, full on deaf, compared to how it feels to be an adult and deaf. And, my parents are deaf, and I'm pretty sure, like, deaf people would like to be included in hearing conversations. Because, like, a lot of people just leave deaf people out. And, like, as a child of deaf parents, it makes me sad to see how the deaf world is sort of excluded from the hearing world when both of them should be in harmony together.
so is your idea then to either do a narrative or a documentary on that idea?
It's either a narrative or a documentary.
And is there a direction you're leaning towards? In other words, like obviously with the documentary, it does help if there's a person that you're thinking of profiling, or an event or an organization or something kind of that's really related to that. Is that something that you have, or would you rather just kind of fictionalize and kind of, you know, create something from scratch?
Well, for my, I'm sort of leaning towards a documentary because all my mom's life, you know, she's deaf. She's always been excluded from conversations, and I'm leaning towards a documentary because, you know, I just really want to tell people how how people might feel, like deaf people might hide how they feel, you know, hide it with a smile, but they might actually be feeling really hurt because not everybody just includes them magically. So
does anyone have any like questions, or and also like kind of what is it about that idea? You know, obviously she's still deciding between narrative and documentary, but what is it about that idea that interests you? Like what's something about that you would like to see, you know, kind of in the film, regardless of which direction it goes in?
I think that's awesome. Sorry if I can jump in. This is kind of off topic, but I'm actually the president of my school's ASL club. So we're working to create inclusivity and raising awareness by practicing and learning how to do ASL together. That's kind of off topic, but yeah, so that's what really intrigued me in this video. I think it's an awesome idea. Kind of what they said earlier, maybe focusing on a narrative of maybe your mom's like growing up and, you know, how she like how she went through that. I think a narrative would be a pretty good way to go, in my opinion, to kind of highlight those emotions and get the audience like sympathizing and really thinking like, oh, like what can I do to like maybe stop this alienation between like deaf people and hearing people. That's an idea. I think that's an awesome way to go about the prompt.
thank you.
I mean,
Something
that's
that,
actually,
oh, sorry, Phil.
no,
I was just going to add something
that's
real
actually a
quick.
great way. She just brought up a great way for you to decide whether to go narrative or doc, because obviously you still have to tie in this story to the theme, the youth, right? And so if you don't feel like there's a way to tell your mom's story, because it sounds like you want to tell your mom's story, right? Like that's where you want to start. If you don't feel there's a way as a documentary to tell her story and kind of make it fit into the youth theme, you could actually take elements of her life and what she's gone through and create a narrative where you create a fictional character, a young character, right? You know, who's going through that experience as well. So depending on which way you want to go, that might be one way to decide. Sorry, Jenmei. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. That's actually the same thing I was going to share, is that in next week's workshop with Alex, part 2 workshop, he's actually going to share an example of how you could mix narrative in a documentary. So if you wanted to do both styles, that's totally possible as well. Okay, I know Cortezi, if it's okay, we'll see if someone else would like to talk about their idea. Unless there's okay. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that one's going to be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I saw Kanoa raise his hand earlier. Or oh, sorry, I was going back to Layla. Layla, I think Layla fixed her audio. Do you want to go for it, Layla?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. My idea was to make it a narrative because I want it to be something about what happened in my life. But it's not going to be me as the character. It's going to be a different character. But it's something that happened in my life. It's about it's about friendship. And how there's just this one person who doesn't make the right friends, and she tries to work through it and deal with it, but she soon realizes that it's just not right to have those bad friends who pick on you. And then she finds a really good friend and realizes what she had been doing to the other friends had made her friends like overpowered, because I've always felt super small in front of my friends.
Thank you for sharing, Layla. So for the others still here, do you have any questions for Layla for that idea? Or is there something about that idea that resonates with you that, you know, you'd like to see more of or her to focus on, or that really kind of works for you?
I have a question for you, Layla. First of all, I love your story idea. I relate to it too growing up. And I was just curious, when going to the theme of youth leading, do you want to highlight the main character, or do you want to highlight that friend that ends up coming into her life and being a good friend? Do you want to highlight that person as the leader?
I'm not actually sure. I just didn't think about that. It's mostly about the friend actually, because just half of it's her technically being bullied by her friends, and then half of it's her just not ignoring, getting over it and having the new friend. So I don't know actually what person I'm gonna highlight. That was a very good question.
I mean, is that something that, Layla, that you want any advice on, or is it something that you just need to think about?
I think I need to think about it because it's just technically a life lesson to know that you should make good friends who make you feel good about yourself.
But I think the core of the question is actually the most important one, because, you know, you can go whatever direction you want. I think, you know, it's your story. How you want to tell it is up to you. But I think the core of the question is really coming down to what's the best way to tell that story that ties into the theme, right, of this program. You know, the leading by example, the youth leading by example. So, you know, depending on what point of view you want to take, whose story you want to tell, the way you want to tell it, you just want to make sure that whatever decision that you make sure that it does kind of, you know, fit into kind of that theme, so that, you know, it's very clear why you're telling that story for this particular program. Yeah, but it's great, Layla. I think that that one's going to be another great one to watch. Do you have any other questions for any of us here about your?
Well, I was gonna say, I'm not doing normal animation for it. I'm better with claymation. That's why I asked a question on claymation, and I just another thing is student council was one of the things that helped me make my new friend. I ran for president because everybody was just saying that I'd be so good for the job, and when I finally did it, um, they started making fun of me about it. That, oh, you're the president, you're gonna have to go through all these stupid responsibilities, and I didn't like that. And then I met another person in student council who had the same problem, and that's technically how I got into that.
I mean, that's a great way to tell the story. I mean, you know, both of you having kind of that same experience, right? And so you want to do this as claymation? Is that the plan? That's great. That's another way to kind of tell a story and make it different and unique, right? Is not only the story you're telling, but the way you're going to tell it as well. So I look forward to seeing that. That makes me even more excited. So thank you very much, Layla. Janmei,
Thanks, Layla.
One more questions. What do you want to do next?
Okay, so we should wrap up pretty soon. Could we get one more example? I think I saw another hand earlier. Kanoa, did you want to share your idea before we wrap up here?
I mean, yeah, sure. I can
Go for it.
I can
Yeah.
go right ahead. All right. And sorry if I'm kind of slow while I'm talking. I'm really, really hungry right now, so apologies.
All good.
Kind of tend to for my words a bit, but anyways, so this is something I've been thinking about for I guess, roughly a month and a half now. I want to make a movie or, short, that's either directly inspired or I guess you could say derivative of the Maui wildfire disaster, because obviously for all of us, not just on Maui, but the whole state of Hawaii, it's been really, really tough. And I do kind of have a personal connection to Lahaina in particular. My dad, he was actually one of the first responders for Hawaiian Electric. He went there right after the word got out. He had to go on a trip there. But, just hearing all of the stories of, how he described it on the way back, just seeing this quaint little town just destroyed to rubble, essentially. It's heartbreaking. It's and to add sort of insult to injury, like during I guess a couple years ago, twice actually, me and my family, we would go, we went to Maui, and I learned on the news that there was this tree that even though the town itself was completely burned to the ground, that tree, that there's actually a photo of myself and my family. It's still there. It's just the top was singed off. But I think, the fact that it's still there can sort of be seen as a symbol of I guess hope, that. And I think how this correlates, going beyond my own personal connection, but just how to the youth of Hawaii, the United States, and arguably the world, it's our responsibility and the generations that come after us to carry, to either just prevent these disasters from ever happening in the first place, because obviously in the news there was a lot of controversy about Hawaiian Electric and how they didn't prioritize these sort of incidents from happening in the first place. But again, I think just it's all about preventing these things from happening, and if they do manage to happen, just trying to carry that weight and figure out what we're going to do next, and with the sort of narrative I want to achieve, I hopefully want to portray okay, this is what happened, we already slipped up once, this is what might happen if we slip up again, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been thinking about. And I guess any questions or anything?
I think that's an amazing idea to work towards. Our school, we were trying to find how to help Maui. And since I had just been elected, I suggested a food and supply drive. And that happened. And the principal of the school said that he was really happy that I got elected because nobody else brought up that idea for Maui.
Yeah, well, that's great. Good on you. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what I think, obviously that's a huge idea that you have there, right?
Yeah,
One
for
of the
sure.
things that Layla's getting at is also there's so many different ways to approach it, and even the stories you
Yeah,
told.
absolutely. And I'm not saying in particular, that's why I was saying at the beginning, like influenced or I guess derivative of that, because one of my main concerns for the project is just like, obviously, if I was going to do something like directly based or, like similar to it, like obviously working with, I don't know, pyrotechnics at my level at experience is a disaster in itself waiting to happen. But
Yeah, don't do that. Don't start fires for your movie.
Yeah, no. Obviously not. But I guess what I'm trying to get with is just, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be a disaster scenario per se. I guess if it can just be anything that can, I guess, emote sort of this feeling of, dread and despair, but also like this sort of, evoke this sort of sense of hope and, and for my generation and, so on and so forth to, take action and to, learn from our mistakes so we can grow. And that's the kind of thing I want to do.
From the story that you told, like the image that really kind of resonates with me, and maybe this is a good jumping off place to just brainstorm whether you end up using this or not, is the photo. Just what you just said about kind of the dread and the hope. The photo represents all of that, right? Because it's a representation of kind of the fire and what it, kind of what it went through. But the fact, like that you said, that it still survives in some form, right? Like it's still there.
Yeah.
And so there's something about that image that's very, very powerful. And again, whether you do something around the photo or not, I would just recommend using that as a jumping off point to brainstorm. Like, what are things like
absolutely
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's a powerful image. Like I mean that if you can kind of use that to kind of build on your idea, I think you'll have something really, really unique.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your feedback, Phil, and for everyone else who commented, and really means a lot to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kanoa. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the remainder of time, thank you first of all for allowing us to go over the 12:30 mark. We are going to wrap up right now. Just a few quick announcements before I hand it back to Phil. Is that I'm going to share all the notes that were shared today and a recording of this, so that if you wanted to look back at the conversation or anything that caught your interest today, you're going to have that ability. I'm going to share examples of films that were shown at the Future Filmmaker Showcase. They have different prompts, but you'll get an idea of how they edited the film and how they, how that looks like that were made by other students. And then, of course, we would like to see you next week again if you're here on Island for the Part 2 workshop. So Phil, before we end, I really, again, we're just so thankful that you were here to facilitate these conversations. And Phil is a dear friend of the Hawaii International Film Festival, has been moderating all these important conversations with our youth and with our special guest speakers, guests. And so, Phil, could you talk a little bit about your experience as a writer and a producer, and in the different projects that you're working on, and how, imparting some advice to our students here in the way that they develop their ideas?
Yeah, so just really quick again, since we're over, I do a lot of work with Justin Lin, who's the director of many of the Fast and Furious movies. And, that's kind of how I got connected to the festival, through Justin and Anderson Lay, who's who's a programmer for the festival, and another person that we work with. And how many of you actually want to be filmmakers? Like, is that something, or at least go in the, like a good number of you, right? So, I know sometimes it feels like if you're in Hawaii or Alaska or someplace remote, that you're very divorced from, kind of the business, right? But what I will say really quickly is look at your community that you have around you. That's the most important thing. You know, your peers, the other people in this workshop that hopefully you'll also get to meet in person come April once we have all the films. And I look forward to seeing everyone and seeing your work then as well. That's really the best way. I mean, I met Justin when we were both nobodies. I mean, he's more of a somebody than me, but you know, when he was in film school, and knowing kind of the same friends and knowing the same people who all wanted to kind of go into this business and become filmmakers. So it really is kind of how you support each other. So really kind of think of that as the resource. It's not about you meeting someone famous and them giving you an opportunity. That does happen, but more than likely than not, it's going to be your peers. It's going to be your community that uplifts you, that you grow with, that you become better filmmakers by working together. So if there's any takeaway about kind of how to quote unquote make it in the business, it really is that. It really is creating your own community. And there's so many examples of that. I mean, almost every person that you might be able to think of who has a successful career, they have a community around them for the most part that they came up with together. So that's the one takeaway. You know, if anything, that's you know, continue collaborating with each other, continue supporting each other's work, show up for everyone's work, right? You know, and I look forward to seeing everyone's work in April. And I know Alex, when you do the workshop, for those who are doing the workshop next week, will be way more articulate than me about how to put your films together. So really, you know, he's a great resource. But if you have any other questions for me or anything, you can always reach out to Jen May and she'll pass it along, and I'm happy to answer and support in whatever way possible, because I think this is an amazing program that HIFF is doing, and I wish I had something like this when I was growing up, and we didn't. So really take advantage of those resources as well. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing everyone's work.
Thanks so much, Phil. Round of applause for Phil. Mahalo. We're so grateful.
Thank
Okay,
you so
so
much.
thank you.
Mahalo,
Okay, what we're
thank
gonna
you.
do real quick is we're gonna take a group photo, a group screenshot, if you will. So please turn on your camera. I'll make sure to share this photo with everyone in the notes that you'll be receiving today. And then also, if you're signed up for next week's workshop, I'll make sure to send all those details to you too. We will be serving food there, so if you have any allergies, I'll get that from you. But quick group shot on 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Cheese.